stars had forgotten Earth. Once the cradle of innovation, rebellion, and boundless hope, it had long been reduced to myth, a graveyard world wrapped in cosmic dust and silence. Eons ago, humanity's final scream had echoed across galaxies, a flare of defiance swallowed by the void. The Council of 12 declared Earth a lost world, its coordinates stricken from maps, its legacy buried beneath layers of rewritten history. No one visited the Sol system anymore. No one dared. And yet, something slept beneath its ancient crust. Beneath the scorched remains of New Geneva's last defense citadel, where twisted metal and fused stone bore the black scars of orbital fire, an echo pulsed faintly. It wasn't mechanical. Not entirely. It was deeper, organic, old, and connected to a single neural signature that hadn't fired in millennia. It belonged to Commander Cale Marin. Marin had once been known as Earth's final sentinel, the last captain of the Guardian Corps. His name had graced memorials on Europa, was whispered in dread on the battle moons of Vexery Prime, and once sang across resistance waves in 1,000 frequencies. He had defied the Council when they ordered surrender. He'd remained behind when the evacuation fleets fled. And when Earth burned, it was Cale who triggered the last protocol, an experimental fusion of human consciousness with quantum stasis architecture. In simpler terms, he became part machine, part memory, and wholly entombed in the catacombs of a dead world. Until now, a tremor rippled through the crust of what was once the Himalayas. Not seismic, harmonic. A frequency that shouldn't have existed in the present age. 19.89 kilohertz, the legacy call sign of Earth's Guardian Command. Across space, no ears were left to hear it. No ears except one. High above the ruins, orbiting in secret since the fall, a derelict vessel stirred. Its hull, once gleaming silver, was now coated in comet ice and meteor scars. The AI on board, Argos, reactivated slowly, tendrils of sentience reconnecting like frost thawing on a wireframe. It scanned the source of the beacon, then reached into the ship's cryo chamber and began the thawing sequence. Cale's backup body, the one he never used, lay dormant in the sarcophagus. Muscle strands rehydrated, nerve lines flared, and Cale Marin, or what remained of him, took a breath laced with 700 years of stillness. He woke up angry. Argos, he croaked, his voice like static over gravel. Status. Earth is dark. You are alone. But the call has been made. Cale flexed his fingers, stared at the artificial skin that covered carbon-reinforced tendons. He remembered dying. He remembered fire, screams, and silence. He remembered promising Earth that it wouldn't fall unavenged. And now, for some reason, he was back. He dropped to the surface 2 hours later in a stealth shuttle, landing amid the shattered ruins of New Geneva. Dust kicked up as his boots touched ground. He walked slowly toward the spire. The broken tower where the Guardian's command throne lay hidden below kilometers of rubble. Beneath that, the heart of Earth slept, or at least it had. But it wasn't just the ancient systems that stirred. Elsewhere in the galaxy, on the obsidian throne of Yvareth Prime, Supreme Warlord Sevrax felt it. The signal, the whisper. He recoiled, his scaled hand gripping the armrest, as vision danced in ultraviolet flames. It cannot be. The Council of 12, now reduced to 5 after centuries of infighting and dark alliances, also received the echo. Human technology, human neural code. The Council panicked. Their extinction edict had failed. Humanity lived? Cale made it to the subterranean command node, his armor crackling with electricity as he pushed through doors that hadn't opened since the fall. When he reached the core, the room bloomed with ghostly projections, images of battles long lost, of fallen heroes, of orbital stations once proud. But at the center of it all stood something unexpected, a child. Or rather, the holographic projection of one. She was barefoot, in a faded Earthguard uniform. Her eyes were galaxies. "You took your time," she said, voice full of sorrow and static. Cale stared. "Who the hell are you?" "I am Hope. You're the AI?" "I'm the fusion of every memory Earth's people uploaded before the end. Millions of thoughts, billions of voices. I've waited a long time to finish the story." Cale blinked, trying to suppress the tide of emotion. "Why now?" She stepped closer. "Because they're coming. And we're not ready." Above them, Satellites burst to life. The orbit of Earth shimmered as ancient weapon systems slowly turned toward the stars. Hope's eyes flickered. I activated the beacon. I needed you to wake up. Because you're not just Earth's last guardian anymore. Kale stepped toward her. What am I? You're the first. He turned toward the surface, already calculating. There would be no reinforcements. No armies. The sole defense fleet was dust. But the old Guardian code embedded in his blood still linked him to Earth's last unbroken secret, the vaults. Beneath Earth lay weapons no one had dared unleash. Not during the war. Not during the fall. He would need them now. In deep space, Severax's flagship split from warp, warping toward Sol like a blade toward a wound. A message went out across the black. Earth has awakened, buried again. And beneath the soil of Mars, the dormant consciousness of another long-lost guardian stirred in the red dust. The ghost of Earth stirred beneath Kale's boots. He could feel the shift in the air, the hum of power lines reconnecting, the faint breath of fusion reactors buried miles below the surface. After centuries in darkness, Earth's long-buried infrastructure had begun to reawaken, one heartbeat at a time. Hope walked beside him in silence. Though her form was holographic, Kale could feel the weight of her presence. She wasn't just data, she was every last trace of his people, condensed into one fragile voice. They entered the transit core, a vast underground chamber carved from reinforced bedrock. Massive rails extended in every direction, leading to places now unknown. On each rail sat dormant transports, armored, jet black, and dust-covered. Kale's armor interfaced with the control pedestal at the center of the platform, and with a quiet hiss, the entire system blinked to life. Hope glanced up. You'll need allies. Kale nodded. Are any guardians left? She hesitated. Not as you remember them, but there are fragments. Embers. He stepped aboard the tram as its engines began to purr with low promise. Then we gather the embers. As the tram sped through the subterranean veins of the dead planet, Argos reconnected with dormant satellites and reconnaissance drones. Images flickered across Kale's visor. Alien warships approaching Sol. Stealth scouts already breached Pluto's exosphere. The Council was moving fast. They feared him, and they should. But Kale wasn't ready. Not yet. The first vault lay beneath the Mariana Scar, a rift deeper than any ocean had ever been, carved during the planetary bombardment of Earth's final days. Inside it, the Guardian Protocol had stored one of its most dangerous contingency plans, Project Lucent. The tram screeched to a halt on a suspended platform overlooking the abyss. Beyond the glass, Kale saw the world fracture in eerie beauty, titanium struts woven like roots through glowing caverns. Inside those caverns, machines of light pulsed quietly. Cryopods, each the size of a small room, lined the interior like glass coffins. Kale stepped forward. Open them. Hope hesitated. Are you sure? Lucent units weren't human. They were experimental. Kale stared into the abyss, jaw clenched. So am I. With a nod, Hope interfaced. One by one, the pods hissed and released their seals. Inside were the Lucents, humanoid constructs built with human DNA and quantum neural cores. Part clone, part synthetic, part something else entirely. They had been designed for speed, adaptability, and ferocity. All had been too dangerous to use until now. The first to awaken was designated V9. Female in shape, her eyes lit up with pale white light, scanning Kale's face for recognition. You are Guardian Zero. Commander Kale Marin, he confirmed. Authority accepted. Orders. Kale turned away, staring into the void. War is coming. I need soldiers who don't break. V9 stepped off the platform, followed by 5 more units. They moved like shadows, silent, graceful, deadly. The Lucents were alive again, and they bowed to the last man who remembered Earth. You are our spark, V9 whispered. We will follow you into the dark. Kale's next stop was Europa's buried vault beneath the oceanic crust. There, beneath miles of frozen silence, lay the astral array, a weaponized star map fused with dark energy algorithms that could predict enemy movement before it happened. It had been too dangerous to deploy during the war, too unpredictable. He activated it anyway. With the Lucents guarding him, Kale descended into the sea, his armor pressurized and augmented by Argos's updates. He reached the control hub and forced the activation code through, his voice, trembling but firm, echoing in the salt-choked silence. And the map awoke. Stars shimmered in the chamber like floating embers, arranged in real-time galactic positioning. Threads of probable futures flickered through them like veins of fire. Kale watched as Earth became the center of storm. Council fleets converging, shadow factions lurking just beyond known space. Hope's voice cracked softly through the feed. They're bringing a Goliath-class worldbreaker. It's meant to erase planetary cores. Kale's stomach turned. Then we don't meet them on Earth. You plan to leave? I'll give them Earth to chase and lead them to hell. Back on the surface, Kale and his squad of Lucents prepared for launch. The ancient orbital ring above Earth, a weapon platform called Halo 37, was still partially intact. Enough for a one-way jump to intercept the Council Armada before they breached Saturn's shadow. Argos had already begun patching its systems using self-repair drones. But before Kale could leave, a signal reached him. Fragmented, old, but undeniably human. Guardian, this is Echo 4. Mars Vault breached. They're waking up. The red flame. It's not dead. The voice ended in static. Kale stared at the transmission. That wasn't Argos. That was another Guardian AI. Hope frowned. The red flame. Project Phoenix. Kale remembered the name. Project Phoenix was meant to be a last-ditch resurrection protocol. It would allow humanity to survive through genetic seed banks and row colony world codes. But the prototype had been abandoned after Earth fell. Or so they thought. Hope's voice was grim. If Phoenix woke up, someone or something is trying to restart humanity. And the Council knows, Kale said coldly. That's why they're accelerating. Kale turned toward the sky. Then we don't just fight for Earth anymore. He looked at the Lucents. We fight for whatever's left. They launched that night from the old Halo 37 ring, piercing the void aboard the retrofitted shuttle Soul's Judgment. Argos took full command of navigation, and the astral system projected enemy positions directly into Kale's HUD. He saw the Council's warships in real time, saw how they curved like vultures around the solar system's rim. But Kale wasn't flying blind. This time, he had history, fury, and ghosts on his side. In the dark beyond Neptune, the Council fleet blinked into existence. Kale stood at the prow of his vessel, helmet in hand, wind from the ship's artificial atmosphere tugging at the short stubble of his hair. Behind him, the Lucent's loaded weapons humanity had forbidden even in its darkest hours. Hope flickered beside him. I scanned the enemy flagship. Severax is on board. Kale grinned grimly. Perfect. The past was coming for him. And Kale Marin was ready to repay every debt in blood and fire. The void before Saturn shimmered with unnatural distortion. Council warships, black as obsidian and humming with gravitational engines, slid into view like predatory fish. Their sleek designs bore no insignias, no banners, only the shimmering pulse of hypertech far beyond anything Kale remembered. But it wasn't the ships that chilled him. It was the shape that emerged behind them. Colossal, monolithic, a shadow that blotted out stars. 10 kilometers of plated horror, bristling with solar spears, antimatter disruptors, and a planetary core annihilator slung beneath its belly like a monstrous lantern. The Worldbreaker. It had been myth during Kale's time. A theoretical terror. A planet killer too costly and too unstable to build. But now it was real, crawling toward Earth on engines that rippled space like boiling tar. Kale stood frozen on the observation deck of Soul's Judgment, his visor dimmed to shield him from the brilliance of Council deployment formations. The Lucents stood behind him, still and silent, weapons locked to their backs. "Oh," Kale muttered. "Tell me I'm not seeing that." "You are." Her voice wavered. "That model matches Worldbreaker Theta 7, designed to render biospheres to ash with synchronized, orbiting subweapons. There's no countermeasure, not unless we dismantle it from the inside." A quiet click echoed through the chamber as V9 stepped forward. Permission to breach and burn. Kale didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he stared into the storm, and then something flickered across his HUD. A beacon. Human. Faint, dying but undeniable. Location. Mars. Argos locked onto it instantly, and Hope's voice trembled. That's the Echo Force signal again. It's moving. Underground. Someone is alive down there. Or something. Kale's stomach clenched. The red flame. Suddenly, the ship jolted. A spatial spike slammed into their shields. Kale stumbled as proximity alarms blared. A warp tremor unfolded next to them, and from it emerged a sleek silver cruiser. Alien, but marked with human code patterns. And aboard it, Kale blinked, eyes wide as the ship's comms flared open. A woman's voice. Low. Human. Calm. Kale Marin. You died, and yet you breathe. He leaned forward. Who is this? The woman appeared in a flickering hologram. Ashen skin, coppery hair braided with implants, and eyes that glowed gold. I'm Astra, she said. I was born from Project Phoenix. And I remember you. Kale's voice was stone. Impossible. You think you're the last guardian, she said, gaze locked with his. But I am the first flame to rise after the fall. I have humanity's final seed. The Council hunts me, and if you don't follow now, the red flame will die in Mars's soil. Then her image fractured as a missile slammed into her cruiser. The signal broke. Argos tracked her descent, spiraling into Mars's southern crater ridge. Kale's blood roared. He had a choice. Intercept the Council fleet now and risk the last living heir to humanity. Or delay the strike, descend to Mars, and find Astra. He turned to Hope. Can we beat the World Breaker? Hope didn't answer. Kale exhaled slowly. We go to Mars. The ship's AI rerouted immediately, and Soul's judgment peeled away from the approaching battle. The Council's fleet continued forward, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, with the detour of a single aging vessel. The descent to Mars was brutal. The atmosphere, still scarred from orbital bombardment, clawed at the hull with storms of static and rust-colored lightning. But Kale refused to slow down. They landed in a canyon split by tectonic agony. Red sand hissed beneath their boots as Kale and the Lucents marched through the ruined outpost, where Astra's signal had gone dark. Martian ruins stretched out in all directions, once part of the Terrigenesis network, meant to terraform Mars after Earth's fall. Now, shattered biodomes and cracked cryochambers stood like graves. And there, buried beneath layers of ash and impact debris, Kale found her. Astra. Her body was twisted, one leg pinned under metal. Synthetic blood oozed from her side, but her eyes were still glowing. Still alive. He knelt beside her. Astra, can you move? I'll walk when the stars burn, she whispered. But you need what's in the vault. She pointed to a sealed door embedded in the rock face. Humanity's last breath. I carried it here. And they followed. A sharp whine split the air. Kale spun. Council drones, sleek and insectoid, dropped from orbit. They hit the ground like comets and unfolded with spindly legs and laser-bright optics. Kale didn't hesitate. Lucents, defensive formation. V9 and the others surged forward, blades singing free from magnetized sheaths. Plasma cracked and danced in the dry Martian air as they struck, moving faster than Kale could track. Drones were torn apart mid-air, but more followed. A wave of precision death. Hope's voice crackled. Council has marked this site. We have 5 minutes until they deploy a cleansing beam. Kale lifted Astra into his arms and moved toward the vault door. Argos, open it. Voice sprint accepted, the AI said flatly. Welcome back, Guardian. The vault opened with a scream of ancient gears, revealing a chamber filled with data cores, weapon schematics, genetic archives, and in the center, a single glowing sphere suspended in stasis. Astra reached out weakly. The Ember Core, the last template of uncorrupted human DNA. If it's destroyed, we fade. Forever. Kale placed her gently against the wall and stepped toward it. Then we don't let it fall. Outside, more drones fell. One slammed into the vault entrance, self-destructing. The shockwave collapsed part of the canyon wall, sealing them inside. Kale grabbed the Ember Core and turned to Astra. There's no way out, is there? Her lips curled in a defiant smile. Only through. He activated his armor's emergency override. A teleport beacon formed beneath them. Hope gasped. You'll overload the system. If you carry both her and the core, then let it burn. Kale snarled. The room exploded in light. Kale, Astra, and the Ember Core vanished in a thunderclap of fractured space. When they reappeared, it was aboard the Halo 37 orbital ring. What was left of it? The station shook violently. The Council had detected their jump. Hope's voice rang out. World breaker, approaching Earth orbit. Intercept in 4 minutes. Kale looked down at Astra, unconscious but breathing. Then he turned toward the window, where the world breaker now loomed, its belly unfolding, revealing the core annihilator spinning up. His next words were whispered, but unbreakable. Then we end this. The world breaker moved into low orbit, casting a deathly eclipse over Earth. Its belly opened, revealing the spherical maw of the core annihilator, glowing with coalescing gravitational energy. A storm churned in the upper atmosphere. Lightning sparked blue and gold, as if the planet itself were resisting. But Earth had no defenses, no fleet, no shield, only one ancient guardian. Kale Marin stood aboard Halo 37's shattered command bridge, the ember core pulsing in his hand like a captured star. Astra lay unconscious behind him, stabilized in a medbay cocoon. Lucents flanked him, weapons drawn, optics pulsing bright. Hope's voice whispered through the silence. Targeting solution locked. World breaker core exposed. But there's no way to breach its inner reactor. Not from the outside. Kale's eyes narrowed. Then we don't go from the outside. He turned to the Lucents. Load the ember core into my armor. Override all safeties. We're jumping inside. Even V9 hesitated. That's suicide, Hope finished. You'll atomize before you rematerialize. There's no way to target an interior coordinate that deep. Kale stepped into the teleport bay. Argos, he said, voice steady, give me everything. The AI paused. Kale, the last time you used that override, it killed 6 pilots. I'm not 6 pilots. Silence. Then, confirmed. Unlocking Guardian Protocol. Mirror Starfall. Kale's armor surged, growing heavier as Argos flooded it with forgotten weapon caches, quantum blades, phase grenades, a rail pulse cannon that sang with antimatter. The ember core fused into his chest plate, and light rippled out from him in sharp pulses. The Lucents stepped forward and raised their hands in silent salute. Hope whispered, "Good luck, old wolf." Then the world twisted. Kale vanished. He emerged inside the Worldbreaker's spinal corridor, a cathedral of machine terror, hundreds of meters wide, lined with glowing data veins and guarded by beings he had never seen before. The Exarchs, not drones, not machines, something in between. 9 feet tall, obsidian-skinned, with blades for arms and faces that flickered between memories. Kale's memories. His mother. His final battle. His death. "You should have stayed dead," one of them rasped. Kale launched forward. He hit like a comet. Rail cannon pulsing as he tore into the first Exarch, shattering its form into searing fragments. The others struck back. Blades screamed, tearing into his shields, carving deep into his side. Blood sprayed inside the helmet. Pain. But pain was a reminder he was alive. He drew both his quantum blades and danced. This wasn't training. This wasn't precision. This was vengeance fed by 1,000 years of silence. Exarchs fell, one by one. Behind them, the reactor doors pulsed, sealed, intelligent, immune to code. But Kale had brought the Ember Core. He slammed it into the door. The reactor room opened. And there, at the center, hovered a sphere of pure entropy, spinning with the compressed mass of a collapsed dwarf star. The Annihilator Core. Around it swirled stabilizer rings etched in Council script, and at the helm stood the architect of it all, Seraph Kryn, Council warlord, betrayer of Earth, the one who led the final purge. Kale froze. Seraph turned. He was human, or once had been. Now, half his body was machinery, his eyes replaced with scanners, his voice a blend of flesh and cold intelligence. "You," Kale growled. "I remember you, Guardian. The boy who thought humanity could survive the stars." He smiled with mechanical lips. "But we were never meant to lead. We were meant to fuel the next age." Kale raised his cannon. "You destroyed my world." "No," Seraph said. "I evolved it." Then he lunged. Kale fired. Plasma scorched the air, but Seraph moved like a ghost, slamming Kale into the wall. Bones cracked. Blood pooled. Kale roared and ignited both blades. The two collided again. Steel and plasma, ideology and hatred. Seraph struck faster, smarter, augmented by centuries of synthetic insight. But Kale had something Seraph didn't. Hope. With a roar, Kale shoved the Ember core deeper into his reactor. His suit overloaded. Energy peeled off him in arcs of white lightning. He grabbed Seraph by the throat and whispered, "You forgot one thing." Seraph writhed. Kale's voice was steady. "Humans never give up." And then he jumped into the Annihilator core. The explosion wasn't light. It was silence. The world breaker fractured from within. One moment, it was a god. The next, it was atoms. On Halo 37, Hope screamed across the channel, "Kale!" A second later, a flare of blue light ignited the space near Earth. A stasis pod. Kale's body, broken, floating, but alive. Lucent's moved instantly. A ship peeled off from orbit, intercepting him, dragging him in. He was breathing. Barely, but alive. Hope wept through the speakers. Guardian down. Guardian alive. Behind them, the Council fleet shuddered, then turned, and ran. Kale floated in a stasis field, suspended between pain and healing. The Ember core had burned through his nervous system, his bones cracked in too many places to count. And yet, he lived. Halo 37's med bay was a sanctuary of soft lights and quiet humming machines. Astra sat beside him, her arm in a sling, face bruised, but eyes filled with something he hadn't seen in years, hope. "Don't try to speak," she said softly as he stirred. But he did. "Did we win?" She smiled, though her voice caught. "You didn't just win. You ended it." Above Earth, the world breaker was gone. Nothing but drifting slag and collapsing fragments. The shock wave from its core's implosion had cracked the neural link across the Council's fleet, disabling their coordination protocols. Without Seraph, without the Annihilator core, they scattered like frightened insects. Lucent squads had hunted the stragglers. Resistance cells on Mars, Europa, and the Jovian moons had surged into action, striking with renewed fury. Entire alien outposts had surrendered without firing a shot. Within 72 hours, Earth was free. But the price? Kale grimaced. The others. 6 Lucents lost. 12 damaged beyond repair. Hope, she's still online. But she hasn't spoken since you jumped into the core. Kale's chest tightened. Argos. A pause. Then a voice, cracked, faint, but familiar, echoed through the chamber. "I'm here, Guardian." He smiled weakly. "Good." Within days, word spread through the stars like wildfire. The Council was fallible. Their greatest weapon had been destroyed by a human. Not a battalion. Not an empire. One man. A relic. A guardian. Kale sat in a wheelchair beneath Halo 37's newly repaired view dome, watching Earth turn slowly beneath them. Clouds curled like smoke over blue oceans. Cities were waking. Fires were dying out. Astra walked beside him, a datapad in hand. "Do you know what they're calling you?" He raised an eyebrow. She chuckled. "The Revenant. The Ember Knight. The Ghost of Earth. My favorite. The one who burned the sky. Too long." Kale grunted. "Doesn't fit on a badge." But inside he was quiet. Watching. Feeling. He had dreamed of this once. Earth alive again. But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Astra sat beside him. "There's more. The Resistance leaders, human and alien, they're forming a coalition. Not just to defend Earth. To rebuild the outer systems. Maybe even something bigger." He looked at her. A united frontier. She nodded. With Earth at the center. The thought was alien. Earth had been a cautionary tale for so long. Burned, broken, abandoned. Now it was a beacon. "How many systems?" he asked. 28 have pledged support. And more every hour. They saw the broadcast. They saw you. Kale closed his eyes. "I didn't do it for that." "I know," she said, softer now. "But it doesn't change what it means. You showed them humans don't bow. Even after 1,000 years. Later that night, Kale walked. Only a few steps. But enough. Hope's voice came through his comm implant. "You're not dead. Not yet. I calculated your survival chances at 0.000003%. Maybe your math's just rusty. I had to rewrite my algorithms because of you, Kale." He smiled. But she wasn't done. "There's a signal coming in. Deep space relay. Encrypted. It matches pre-Exodus Earth military codes." Kale froze. Impossible. All Earth military relays were destroyed. Not this one. It was hidden inside the Oort cloud. It activated the moment the world breaker fell. Kale sat down, his legs trembling. What's it say? Hope hesitated. Then, one word. Return. 2 days later, Kale stood before a hollow conference of 28 species. The old council chamber had been repurposed, its thrones replaced with open seating, its symbol of oppression torn down. In its place, a single sigil, a white flame on black, the symbol of Earth. He wore no armor, only simple black, and the scars of war. Some of you don't know who I am, he began. That's fine. I'm not important. Murmurs. I'm a soldier. I bury my people. I woke up to find the stars changed. But you know what hasn't changed? He looked around. Courage. Sacrifice. That ember inside you that says no when the universe says obey. He stepped forward. You're not looking for a new council. You're looking for future. Something that doesn't start with domination, but with dignity. We don't need thrones or tyrants. We need truth. We need to remember. He lifted a single coin from his pocket. Worn, old, bearing the ancient Earth motto, E pluribus unum. Out of many one. He placed it on the table. My name is Kale Marin, and I propose we build a new union, not an empire. A family. One built not on fear, but on fire. Afterward, Astra joined him as the delegates signed a pact. They're calling it the Phoenix Accords, she whispered. Kale watched a seven-limbed Varath diplomat shake hands with a human survivor from Europa. Fitting. The council worlds are still watching. Some might retaliate. He looked up at the stars, then down at his hands, scarred, trembling. Let them come. Meanwhile, deep in an abandoned nebula, something stirred. Among the debris of the world breaker, a black shard floated. It pulsed faintly, a fragment of Sarah's mind. A whisper. Not dead. Not yet. The stars, once witnesses to screams and silence, now bore signs of life, of rebuilding. Where the council's thrones had cast long shadows, embassies and learning halls grew. The Phoenix Accords, born in fire and defiance, flourished across sectors. Trade flowed between species who once viewed each other as prey and predator. Mars terraformed into red gardens. Titan's icy surface glittered with cities. But amid the peace, the myth of the Guardian grew larger than the man. Kale Marin was no longer seen in public. Rumors whispered of secret council, of him becoming more machine than man. Others said he vanished beyond known space to confront older threats none dared name. Still, his name became a wound and a warning, especially among the remnants of the old regime. Children learned of him in stories. In alien classrooms, teachers would say, "When the stars forget mercy, remember Earth. Remember the Guardian." 1 century later, the Guardian was a ghost. A bronze statue stood at the center of Unity Station, an outpost orbiting the rebuilt Earth. The statue showed Kale with 1 foot on fractured ground, holding a star map in one hand and a shattered council helm in the other. Engraved at the base, "We are not the oldest. We are not the strongest, but we are the fire." Yet, behind the monuments and stories, something stirred again. In the edge of null space, where even tachyon relays died and physics broke like glass, a signal blinked. It carried no sound, no language, only coordinates. It pulsed once every 6 seconds, matching the heartbeat of a human child. Astra's descendant, Commander Silavos, stared at the data on her screen aboard the Tempest Veil. Her fleet was tracing an anomaly near the galactic rift when the pulse found them. "Confirmed," her tech officer said. "It's real. Organic lace code, buried inside a failed council archive vault. This thing predates the Exodus." Sila's eyes narrowed. "Give me everything." Hours passed, and the fragment was decoded. It wasn't just coordinates. It was a warning. One word, embedded in the oldest Terran encryption. Run. The stars held many secrets. Kale Marin had only unlocked one. The Ember Core had been a containment device, designed not to empower, but to seal. It had held back something ancient, buried beneath the Orion reach for eons. When Kale used the core to destroy the World Breaker, the final seal fractured. What slumbered there had no name. Some whispered it was the First Mind. Others called it the Devourer. Even Seraph, reborn in scattered shards and hunting in the dark between galaxies, feared it. It awoke, and it remembered Earth. Sela brought her findings to the Council of Sparks, the Phoenix Accords leadership, now spanning 67 systems. Some laughed. Others trembled. But the guardian's words echoed, engraved into the very walls of the council chamber. When fear rises, don't kneel. Burn. And so, they chose not to hide. Humanity sent emissaries, scouts, even weapons. None returned. But the final scout, piloted by a hybrid child of Earth and Verath, bore a final image before its signal ended. A broken moon, a sky bleeding light, and a single word carved into an obsidian monolith. Kale. Far from the inner systems, an old ship drifted alone. Black, sleek, adorned in earth fire-red stripes. Inside, a preserved chamber powered on. Stasis melted away. Steam hissed, and a voice long thought silent spoke. Vitals restored. Neural integrity at 89%. Guardian Kale Marin. The stars remember. Kale's eyes opened. Older. Slower. But awake. Hope's voice followed. You were right. It's not over. He sat up. His spine ached. Cybernetic limbs groaned with age. How long? 104 years, 2 months, 14 days. And the Accord? Alive. Strong. But not ready for what comes next. He looked to the stars, older now but somehow clearer. Then we start again. On Earth, the sky shimmered with a phenomenon no one could explain. Thousands looked up as auroras danced unnaturally across the night. In every language, in every voice, people asked the same thing. Is it happening again? But this time, they were not afraid. This time, they remembered the stories. The songs sung in bunkers. The fire that would not die. In the Academy of the First Flame, children recited the oldest lines of Terran scripture. Not religious, but forged in pain and pride. We were born of dust. We rose in fire. And we remember. As Kale prepared to descend into the unknown, he left behind a message. A beacon, to be activated only when all else failed. It carried no threat, only truth, and a choice. To all who hear this, know that Earth was not chosen. Earth chose itself. We stood when the stars fell. And if we fall again, we fall together. He paused. But if you're listening, don't wait for someone like me. Be the fire. In the centuries that followed, many forgot the details. Dates blurred. Battles distorted. Names became myth. But the phrase remained, etched into hulls, painted on cities, whispered by lovers and leaders, carved in asteroids, and encoded in the DNA of future children. It was not a command, not a prophecy, but a promise. Human, don't stop.